Sharon, hey, congratulations on your new film, Float.
Thank you so much.
So tell us how you discovered this story in the first place that you want to adapt it into a film.
Yeah, so the producers at Collective Pictures approached me with this project. They had optioned it for Robbie Amell, and who's also a producer on the film. And I read the book Float by Kate Marchant, this Wattpad property. And it was about a 17-year-old girl from Alaska, Waverly. Her parents were getting a divorce, so they didn't know who to take her for the summer. So they ship her to Florida to hang out with her aunt for the summer. And she nearly drowns, is saved by the lifeguard, boy next door, and their love story. And when I read the book, it was really uncanny how much I could relate to Waverly. First off, this complicated relationship with her parents. I was an immigrant. We moved from Taiwan to Montreal when I was 6, and sort of also never got around to swimming lessons properly. So I took adult swimming lessons, and then I went traveling on my own and fell in love on a trip. And there was just so many elements that drew me to the project. And I was really grateful to Kate and Lionsgate and Wattpad to allow me to bring so much of myself to this story, and that they were happy for me to do this adaptation, and having this marriage of like both Kate's story and my story come together has been very unique and very rewarding. Yeah.
So was the original story Asian centered, or was that adjusted for the film?
That was me. That was me coming into this project. The Kate's story was not, it was not an Asian centered story. Yeah.
So was it difficult to adapt? Did you have to leave any important things out through this adaptation?
Oh, I mean, the book and the movie are actually pretty different. The bones are the same. I think the most important thing that we wanted to that drew me in is the theme of belonging, and this idea that Waverly is a little bit lost and, floating floating in this world, and has to kind of find where she belongs. And she finds this community in this new small town, but she also has this task of reconnecting with her own parents. Um, so that's really what we wanted to preserve for the film. Um, in the movie, the characters are 10 years older. We really had to streamline a lot because, of course, a book is a lot longer than a feature-length film. So we we kept kind of the main characters, but there's are way more characters in the book. Um, yeah, you should definitely go read that. It's a really fun read. Um, but yeah, it was definitely, the process of figuring out, what we wanted to really focus on and kind of stick with that for the film.
That is true. Now, tell us about this small beach town that you actually found to for your setting. Every time I think of like Canada, anything near the beach sounds cold to me.
Well, that's not entirely wrong. We did shoot in British Columbia. Um it wasn't we I guess most of the film was shot in Squamish. But some of the beaches were not in Squamish, so it is a fictional town. In the book as well was a fictional town. Um but we kind of pieced together the most beautiful places in on the west coast of Canada. Um to build Holden. And we also did shoot in late summer, so weather was a bit of a challenge. We were kind of running against the clock. Um, to get those, summer feeling shots. Yeah.
Tell us about the cast between Andrea and Robbie, and how you as a director helped them develop that romantic chemistry on screen.
Well, we had a lot of conversations ahead of time. We worked together beforehand, just making sure everybody was feeling uh, clear, obviously, on where their characters were at. Um, and then I think building like a real life relationship and bond is also very important. And the nature of us being in this like beautiful place and shooting intimately with each other and building those friendships was really important. But also they're just really talented professional actors, and they had a relationship of their own, a professional relationship that allowed them to like build that chemistry.
Now, of course, one of the most fascinating about the stories is the woman trying to learn how to swim. That must have been very challenging for Andrea to perform both swimming and drowning. Can you talk about the process and how you got her through that?
Well, interestingly, Andrea also had this experience of not being 100% comfortable in the water. So in prep, we actually had her take swimming lessons. So we had a swimming instructor with us at all times, and we practiced her drowning.
Huh.
We also practiced, how she can make it look um yeah, like more like she's in more distress, and like practice like the different movements she can do underwater. We also made sure that she could reach out to anybody if she ever did feel like she was in trouble. There was always somebody nearby. Um, and I mean, she sold it well. Like I was always concerned for her in those scenes. But she seemed to be fine, so she really sold it.
So cinematography wise for filming those type of scenes, because it's always challenging to film things in the water or even underwater in this
Mhm.
case. Can you talk about the challenges with that?
Yeah. I mean, firstly, it's a really big challenge for the actors themselves to be in water. Even in with warm water, it's still below your body temperature. So no matter how warm the water is, they still get cold after like a 10-hour day of shooting. So we definitely wanted to be mindful of that and to protect them and like keep them as warm as possible throughout. But yeah, it's not like an exact science too, with water constantly being in motion. It's hard to frame up those shots. We shot in the ocean, the actual ocean, and we had the camera on a surfboard. So it was, gorilla in some ways, in a lot of ways. But yeah, it was a fun challenge, and it was cool to be able to see what we could do to piece it together.
Most excellent. And Sharon, this is considered like the romantic drama genre itself. And I know as a director, you've basically directed in all kinds of categories, both film and television. How did you enjoy directing in this genre? And would you like to stay in this area?
Yeah. I loved it. I mean, it's funny because I guess at the beginning of my career, when I first wanted to become a director, I thought I'd be making like rom-coms because I love rom-coms, and I'm definitely a romantic. But as I've grown and I've discovered, I have other interests, and I am interested in a lot of different kinds of stories. But I think, pretty attached to telling stories about relationship, not necessarily romance, but friendships and family relationships, any kind of relationship. I think that's how we exist in the world. I am not looking to exclusively work in the romance space. I'm very interested in, as you can tell from my resume, that I'm very interested in very different forms of storytelling. So I hope I get to continue doing it and that I don't have to choose one thing.
Most excellent. And can you talk about, speaking of that, can you talk about what's up next in line for you, or is that a hush hush thing right now?
Well, I'm definitely the show I directed on Run the Burbs is currently airing its newest season. My episodes are coming up, so that's really exciting. But I'm also always writing, and I am in the financing stage of another feature film, an original screenplay of my own. So that's very exciting. And hopefully I'll be able to share that soon.
Well, it's excellent. Well, Sharon, thank you very much for carrying this conversation for Float. It's a really good story. You know, people who love romance should definitely check it out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Bye now.